Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number one in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
Yep, that's right. What's going on, everybody? This is your host, Critical Failure. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. This is TCR episode 259. Welcome back, everybody. This past week has been it's been a good week. Played quite a bit of Pac-Man, of all things. We're gonna dig into Pac-Man fever, just like it's 1983. Here on Tiger Claw Radio. Coming up, we got some good tracks from Duet, D-U-E-T-T, off of Bandcamp. I picked up the album Borderline a couple weeks ago and been digging into that pretty hard. We're gonna hear a couple of tracks off of it here on TCR. Guys, stick with me. It's gonna be a good one. I know it. Duet, spelled D-U-E-T-T, like duet, but with an extra T. That's the name of the artist. The album is called Borderline, and I believe this is offered pay what you want on Bandcamp. Yes, it is. Now, they just reissued the vinyl for £20, 20 Great British pounds. Let me see what that equates to in US dollars plus shipping. $26.05 plus $9.12 shipping. Wow, you're talking about over $30 to get this record shipped to the U.S. It's pretty sweet, but I'm gonna have to pass on the vinyl. So that particular track was "Running Scared" featuring Stuart Lockwood. It's there's 13 tracks on that album, and most of them don't have any vocals, but 2 of them do, and that's one of them. Again, a lot of times when these types of albums that I pick up on Bandcamp, when the vocals kick in, that's usually where I check out. This is one of the rare instances where it really seems to work. So, all right, boys and girls, you know what time it is. We are going to get in the Wayback Machine and go back to the beginning of the week. We're going to talk about some video games in the van, on the Vancast. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Monday morning. I don't even know what the date is. Today's maybe November 5th. We had daylight savings time over the weekend. It's the one where you get an hour, the good one. So I made really good use of that. Saturday night, the night that we rolled the clocks back, everybody went to sleep early. The kids were asleep. My wife wanted to turn in early, so she was knocked out by 8 p.m. So I took full advantage. I stayed up real late, played some video games. I think it's important to note that I've reached an age where, for the most part, it's not cool to stay up all night and play video games anymore. When I was younger, it was like a given that would just happen sometimes, and I'd be up all night playing games. But now, if I stay up super late, it really puts a hurting on me. I'm in my mid-30s, the body needs rest. But, for some reason, Saturday night it was okay. I stayed up till 1 in the morning. I played some Magic the Gathering online with Hemrock, and I played Terraria for like 2 hours. It's very rare that I can play a game for like 2 hours without stopping right now. It's funny because my kids play Terraria, and my daughter, who's 4, really wants a magic mirror. So I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go out and find a magic mirror for her. Started a brand new world. Started building houses and digging mines, and never found that mirror, but I certainly had a good time. Played a good amount of games over the weekend, actually. Saturday, my family goes to the gym. We all go to the gym. I did some running, I did some lifting, and when it was all over, I had probably about an hour to hang out and wait for my wife to finish working out and doing yoga and whatnot. And so I'm sitting on these couches outside of this place where the kids do their thing. And I had like some time to kill. So thankfully I had my Game Boy Color in my gym bag. Now I wanted to get a hold of like a clone system, like a clone Game Boy, so that I would have something like that dedicated for my gym bag, but I never did sort that out. I talked about that all summer, and I never took the plunge. So I'm just playing my Game Boy Color, and I've got a handful of these gray cartridges sitting in my gym bag. I ended up playing pachinko for like an hour, which was pretty fun. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's the same problem as always. Those games require a password system in order to save and come back, and I can't work the interface well enough to do the password system because it's in another language. I actually had the brilliant idea to download Google Translate on my phone, and I tried. Google Translate has a feature where you can point the camera at something, and it will translate any text that shows up in your image in real time. So I thought, hey man, I'll just point the camera at the game, and it'll translate at least well enough for me to understand what's going on. Oh man, it works better on a TV. I did this with my Famiclone as well. But this is something you guys all got to try. Because, did it work? No, it did not. But the results were amusing to say the least. What ended up happening is I'd have a screen of text, and Google Translate wouldn't be able to make heads or tails of it. But in random intervals, English words that don't fit together would just pop up on the screen and then disappear. I'm not sure how I would make a video out of this, but it was really something to see. Try downloading Google Translate. Play some Famicom ROMs or something like that. Point your phone at the screen and just see what it comes up with. It was good times. All right, hang on a second. It's getting hot in the car. I gotta turn the air conditioner or the heat off. All right, I think we're good now. So what else did I do? I played some pachinko outside the gym. I played some Terraria Saturday night, and this morning I woke up feeling good. I went to bed early last night, and I had the extra hour of sleep, so I think I got away with it. Staying up late Saturday night. I got up early. It was about 4:35 when I rolled out of bed. I'm used to getting up at 5. So with the daylight savings time, there you go. So I got out of bed at 4:30. Got up to my office, sat down, and I played. I played the Pac-Man Museum, which was a new one for me. Oh, Pac-Man. I like Pac-Man. I'm not so sure about this Pac-Man Museum game, but I like Pac-Man. I ended up playing the Pac-Man Arrange game, and from what I understand, it's like, okay, well, they just made a brand new Pac-Man game, and it plays a lot like the original Pac-Man. Just imagine Ms. Pac-Man for PS1, and that's the Pac-Man Arrange game. It was okay. It was alright. It had some neat gimmicks. Had some boss fights, which was weird. But that was my morning. I got to wake up and try a video game, which is pretty awesome. There was a high score battle on Twitter probably about a week ago. Duke from the Cartridge Club is like an unbeatable machine in Atari 2600. We played Duke and who was the other guy? Buried on Mars, I think the guy's name is. Those guys played Missile Command for Atari 2600. Very simple. Just fire up your Atari, play some Missile Command, and when you get when the game's over, just take a picture of your screen, post it up on Twitter, and see what happens. So we learned a few things. We learned that Duke is unbeatable. I was scoring, to put it in perspective, I'm pretty sure he was scoring an extra digit on his high score for Missile Command than I was, which is always disheartening, because I think I was topping out at probably like 17,000 points or something like that after playing a couple of times, and he was 100,000, something like that. I don't know. That guy has got some Atari skills. He will definitely be featured. This was like, he had like 100,000, like 103,000. Buried on Mars had like maybe 100 or 102 or something like that, like really close. And then I had like miles behind them both. Not even a competition from me. But it was fun, you know? Being able to play the Atari and not only have the points matter, but being able to exchange scores. It makes those games fun. It really does. So I would like to somehow put that experience into words and put it into the first issue of my single-page print-and-play high-score magazine, which still doesn't have a name yet. Well, all right, I'm gonna start winding this thing down because it's raining outside, and to be honest, I probably need to focus on the road. But if I was able to just turn around and go back home, hang on a second. Oh, I'm sorry. What would I play? Well, I probably had enough of Pac-Man Museum, that's for sure. I haven't played Hotline Miami 2 in a couple days. I'd probably go back and play more Hotline Miami 2. I reached a level I couldn't get past, and I took a little break from it. One thing I discovered about Hotline Miami 2, just if you don't mind me revisiting last week's show for just a second. Oh my gosh. Alright, I think we're good. I was driving, I passed a bus. I'm on a one-lane road, or a two-lane road, I guess, and a bus was going in the opposite direction, and the lights were just right in my face. Kind of scary. Right, so Hotline Miami 2. So I started looking at some of the entries in the workshop, and last week I mentioned that it doesn't just have a level editor, but a campaign editor, right? And looking at some of the most subscribed entries in the workshop, it looks like not only does it have a campaign editor, but some of these guys have like custom sprites and stuff. So you're looking at the potential for a complete and total overhaul. Now I want to finish the main game before I get into any of those, but some of the stuff looked really, really neat. Which is awesome, because I remember when Hotline Miami 2 first came out, it was one of those deals where the level editor was not released right away. They held on to it for quite some time. As a matter of fact, you may have encountered the Russian game, I think it's called Kavkaz Bloodbath, or Bloodbath Kavkaz, or something like that, which is clearly like a Hotline Miami knockoff, but bad. One of the reasons that game caught the spotlight is because it had a level editor before Hotline Miami 2 did. That's probably what I would fire up, thinking about it now, if I was able to just turn around and go home. But you know what? It's raining, it's Monday, I had an awesome weekend. Who wants to turn around and go home? I gotta go smash through my Monday at work. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do, boys and girls. So I'm gonna send you guys back to the studio, where it's nice and safe and feels good, and there's games and good times. And I'll see you guys there as soon as I can. We are back safe and sound in the studio. And you know what? A quick update on that story. I did actually go back and play some more Pac-Man Museum. Not so much on that arrange game that I talked about, but I wanted to get the achievement for sampling all of the games in the pack, and I came across some that I liked. I played Pac-Land, which was absolutely terrible, but there was a Pac-Man Championship Edition that was really good. And I also really enjoyed Pac-Mania, even though it was somewhat of a flawed game. Good old familiar Pac-Man action, but it has like an isometric view to it, scrolling isometric view, and you can jump as Pac-Man. Although I have not yet figured out what jumping does. I'm having more fun than I thought I was going to have with Pac-Man. Not just Pac-Man Museum, but digging back into Pac-Man Fever as a whole. I've got about, between Pac-Man Museum and then the arcade game series version of Miss Pac-Man, I've got about 2 hours, which is pretty cool. Those are good games. You know, it's always nice to buy stuff on Steam and then actually have it be a win. You know, be something that it is really fun to play. That's especially true after revisiting. I'm looking at the list of games I bought during the Halloween sale a couple of weeks ago. It's a pretty short list. Chaos Code, Gas Guzzlers Extreme, Hotline Miami 2, Melty Blood, QP Shooting Dangerous, Shadow Warrior Remake from 2013, and what is that? Something in Birth? Under Night in Birth EXE Late. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. And of those 7 games, the one game that I've played and enjoyed is Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number. Now, to be fair, I've enjoyed that game extensively, but that's 1 in 7. So I got some stuff to play. And Thanksgiving is... when is Thanksgiving? Another week yet? We got maybe a week and a half or so before Thanksgiving? Okay, well, let's be generous. About 2 weeks. All right? So... There's no way I'm going to have played all of these games before Thanksgiving. There's no way I'm going to have booted up all of these games before Thanksgiving. So, that's just how it goes. Oh, that is hot. I feel like I'm getting sick. If I come down with a cold, I don't know what I'm going to do next week. We're going to have to figure it out, because right now I'm feeling in the back of my throat like it like pretty soon it's going to hurt to start. It's going to hurt to talk. So, but for now, we'll muscle through it. So let's see. This is the part of the show where I like to thank the sponsors. Those of you guys who are giving of your resources to help TCR come back every single week. And to these guys, I offer early access to the show as well as a few supporter-exclusive perks. And I also read their names off here in a Hall of Distinguished Gentlemen. They are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, and the Cartridge Brothers. And these guys have been helping me for a good bit, and I'm incredibly thankful. I can't say enough good things about what you guys do. So thanks very much, and I hope you guys are enjoying Tiger Claw Radio. So for now, let's get back in the Wayback Machine and turn the clock back for this past Tuesday. Now, this is the last Vancast I have for the week, because after Tuesday, I spent the rest of the week just listening to music that I was getting off of Bandcamp, because I've been so waist deep in discovering new music lately. It's been a blast. But all right, on with the Vancast. Oh boy, everybody, it's Tuesday morning. And it's rainy outside. It's the Vancast. Hang on a second. Oh, yeah, there we go. All right. So let's see. I want to get some chip tunes made today after work. That's my goal for when I get home. My last I used to make chiptune albums years ago, and I made 3 of them. And the last album I made came out in 2010, early 2010 or 2009. So we're looking at 8 years ago. It's my first album in 8 years that I'm working on, and I'm really excited about it. It's shaping up rather well. So chiptunes for me always felt like that was an unfinished project that I had to revisit one day. Because when I made my last little chiptune album, at some point I was looking at the unfinished product. I had some hooks for some songs that weren't done yet. I had some songs that were all set, ready to go. And I just decided, you know what, this isn't going anywhere. Let's just round it up and release it. And that's my last album, Awesome Jeff. So, I think it's time to go back and get it done. Now, I think I'm right. That's exactly where I'm at right now, is I'm listening to some of the tracks that I've put together over the last couple weeks. And I've got a couple quality tracks, and I've got a couple hooks that haven't been fully realized yet. So it's coming along, but it's not quite ready yet. And it's difficult to feed bits and pieces about it. I'd love to play demos. That'd be cool. That might be fun. We'll get some feedback. But we'll have to see how that goes. I might want to work on everything just a little bit longer. Also, at this point, I have to make a decision if I'm going to do all new material, or try and throw in some of the stuff I've made over the years. At one point, I got like a chiptune program for my phone, thinking I would create music on my phone. But my kids got a hold of it, and every time I composed anything, the kids would just write over it with stuff that didn't really work. So I tried that probably about 5 years ago, I got a couple of songs that came together, but I have to make this decision if this album is going to be a brand new album made from scratch, or if I'm going to put together bits and pieces of projects from over the years. I'm not sure. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do it. But it's nice to be making music again. I was making music before any of this, before TCR, before YouTube, any of that stuff. I was in a band back in about around 2000, 2001. And in those days, I was writing music and doing a lot of creating. Oh, hang on. Did we live? We sure did. So let's go to video games. Last night before bed, I played Duel Masters. It's the game that I opened on the channel just this past week that Hemrock sent. Hemrock and I were talking about playing this Duel Masters game at MagFest. So I needed to start getting into the game and developing a save file. All right. So I opened it up. I started a save file, and I went to, in the game, I walked to the first card shop room place where you can play the game, and I played a couple of practice matches, and that's pretty much where I'm at. Duel Masters is a weird game. It seems like, let's see, the way it was explained to me, Hemrock told me that Wizards of the Coast developed this game to compete with Yu-Gi-Oh! So I can see a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! In it, in that you lay 5 cards out in front of you or something like that. I don't know. I guess it's not very much like Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's monster driven, but because it's Wizards of the Coast, it also has a mana pool. I don't know. It's like a weird Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic the Gathering hybrid. Very strange. Taking me a couple of games to wrap my head around the mechanics, but pretty neat. Pretty neat. You guys know I like the collectible card games in video game format, especially ones that predate DLC. You know, although you could argue that the Yu-Gi-Oh! Games of that era were worse than DLC, because rather than just introduce DLC, they made you buy a whole nother game, and they made 7 or 8 games or something like that. Oh my gosh. So that was Duel Masters. And this morning I woke up, got up to my desk. The alarm rang at 5. I sat down at my desk probably 5:10 or so. And I played Ms. Pac-Man, the arcade game series on Steam. So basically what they did somewhere along the line was they took a few of the Namco classics, specifically Dig Dug, Galaga, Pac-Man, Ms. Pac-Man, and they released the MAME ROMs as arcade games. Now they're not very expensive. They're $2.99, $3.99, something like that. But I got Ms. Pac-Man in the Bandai sale. I got a couple of Ms. Pac-Man related games. Yesterday I played Pac-Man Museum, but this morning I just wanted to play the classic. So I played Ms. Pac-Man. Couple of things. Number one, I forgot how fun Ms. Pac-Man was. It's a fun game. There's real challenge in it because the player moves slower than the ghosts, and that makes it challenging. And what I find interesting about that is when games imitate when games imitate the Pac-Man or Ms. Pac-Man formula, that's what they get wrong. Even in the Pac-Man Arrange game, the new Pac-Man remix game that came with the museum, the ghosts should go faster than Pac-Man, and you should have to use your juking ability to get around them, and that's the way the game should be. And that I realized this almost right away. I was like, wow, this is more fun than the Arrange game, than the fancy new one that they made. This cheap little MAME ROM with a front end. is way more compelling because of that fact. So that was a good time. I didn't get very far because early in the morning, and it had been a little while since I played it. And Ms. Pac-Man on all default settings got some I would say some real difficulty. There's a story about Ms. Pac-Man on the Game Boy Advance. I have a copy of the Namco Museum on Game Boy Advance. It's one of the old standbys for the GBA for me, is the Namco Museum. Even today, if I'm on my DS, I use an old school DS, the first model. If I'm playing a DS game, you can believe Namco Museum is going to be in that GBA slot, just in case I need like something quick. I can load up Ms. Pac-Man or Pole Position or something. And the reverse is true too. If I'm really into a GBA game and I'm playing it on my DS, then I'll put the DS version of Namco Museum in that other slot. Right? Right. So let's go back in time to when I was, how old was I? 18 years old? Maybe 19? I think I was 18. I was working at IHOP, the International House of Pancakes. And I was on the morning shift, so I would get there at 7, and I'd work till 3. Which was rough, because I had a long bus ride to get to work. And I remember I got a hold of my first GBA. Was it my first one? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. But I didn't have a whole lot of stuff at the time, right? I couldn't afford the internet. I didn't even have a computer that worked. I had a couple of video game systems, and I had an Xbox, but no computer. And I found a Game Boy Advance on the street, walking around the neighborhood. I might have told this story before. There was like a big group of kids getting high in a circle. And I was like walking across the street, just minding my own business, watching all this happen. Just watching all these kids smoke up out in the middle of the open. Like, I was like, wow, man. And I was never into that kind of thing, so, whatever. And as I was walking down the street and putting some distance between me and this group, there in the gutter was a blue Game Boy Advance SP. Now, clearly this was one of those kids that was up there getting high. But I was like, and here was me with no computer, no internet, hours and hours on the bus every single day just to go wait tables. I was like, yes, please, and that went right in my pocket. And that was how I first really got into the Game Boy Advance. So I remember with that system getting a hold of the Namco Museum, the copy of the Namco Museum that I still have today. And I would wait tables at IHOP with a Game Boy Advance SP in my apron. And when it was really slow in the mornings, I remember I'd pull it out and play Ms. Pac-Man. All right, well, there was 2 people there. There was another waiter and named Jacob, and there was a cook whose name I can't remember. And these guys both wanted to play Ms. Pac-Man for cash. Put up $5, $10 or something. I think it increased every time we did it. We all put up $1 the first time, and we had it a round, and then I think Jacob won. And then we all put up $5 the next day, and then the following day, everybody put up $10 freaking for a game of Ms. Pac-Man on default settings in the Game Boy Advance. I remember clearly playing Ms. Pac-Man on default settings on the GBA on Namco Museum for money several times as a waiter on this Game Boy that I found on the street. And playing Ms. Pac-Man this morning on the Steams with the arcade game series or whatever they're calling it, fancy name ROM with a front end. That really brought me back to my days as a waiter. Because I had a lot of fun in those days. That was a fun job for a kid. I learned a lot about how to talk to people, because when you're waiting tables, you're either talking to people and being sociable, or you're not eating, because if you're just, that's where the tips come from. So I had to learn how to do that. So that's it. You could say I've had a little bit of Pac-Man fever over the last couple days. Pac-Man really just kind of came out of nowhere in the Bandai sale that happened on Steam. It's taken up a lot of my attention. It has. Now, it's taken up a lot of my 5 in the morning attention, which, is negligible. Because I could have just as easily spent that time sitting in my chair staring off into space for 45 minutes. I've had mornings like that, where it's like, just not ready to engage yet. I don't even know why I got out of bed. I just want to experience quiet. But I'll tell you what, if I were back right now, if I were able to go back and do whatever I wanted, it probably wouldn't be to play Pac-Man, to be honest. I had a good Pac-Man related morning. I'd probably set Pac-Man aside until tomorrow morning. I honestly don't know what I would play. Maybe I would play Hotline Miami 2. It's been a couple days since I played Hotline Miami 2. You know what would be a good one? Space Quest. I opened up Space Quest and started filming a complete Let's Play like a week or two ago. And I got about halfway through the game to this one scene where you ride like a motorbike. You ride a skimmer across the desert. And I kept dying. It's one of these things where they tried to make something that involves reaction time. It's like a mini game they placed in the middle of a point and click adventure game. That's really frustrating, but that kind of put a screeching halt to what was otherwise shaping up to be a video that I wanted to make for many years. It's a complete Let's Play of the original Space Quest. So maybe I would open up Space Quest again, take a look at my video files that I made, and just see how that project is going. See if I can get things together on that one. That would be cool. But for now, boys and girls, I'm gonna shoot you back to the studios where it's nice and comfortable. Where my chair is. My gosh, the hydraulic pump on my chair has died. So it does that thing when I sit in it, where you have that lever under the desk chair that makes the chair drop and raise. When I sit down on it, the chair just drops no matter what. It really bugs me. Because it's not a very old chair. I've only had it for like a year tops. Not even that much, probably like 6 months. But it is what it is. It's a chair. Keeps me off the carpet. It works. I'll see you guys back in the studio. Just a quick update on some of the stuff I talked about at the very beginning of that Vancast. I talked about making new chiptunes. That's coming along very well. I don't even have a song count for you, because I have probably about 7 working tracks, and what keeps happening was, all right, these 4 of the 7 are done, but every time I sit down to make chiptunes, I open the tracks that are quote-unquote done, and I find ways to build onto them. So there is an album in progress, I'll say that much. I've been so interested in cassette tapes lately. I got back into cassette tapes very, very hard, and I don't know exactly how many I have in my collection, but here's the thing about cassette tapes. There's a little, there's a subreddit. There's a couple of subreddits that revolve around cassette tapes, and there's a little niche now. The cassette tape maniacs all know each other, and we know how to talk to each other. So you can have a good time with it just like you could any other niche hobby, right? Back in about 2010, 2011, I can't remember exactly the date, but it was many years ago. I went looking for these people, all right? Because I've always loved cassette tapes. I wanted to be involved in some sort of niche hobby. There had to be other people who liked them, right? So I started a second YouTube channel called Reels of Fury. That's not there anymore. And I started a second Podomatic called Reels of Fury. I made a rock and roll podcast, just like the Kill Your Mind series that I put out in the past. But the thing was, every track that was played was ripped from my personal cassette collection. I took my tape player and I wired it into my computer putting it in the line out, and I recorded everything with Audacity, and I did like maybe 2 or 3 episodes that way. And they took a lot of work. It took considerably more work than it does to do MP3s or even vinyls. Because at least with vinyl, if you want to play a certain song, you don't have to spend 10 minutes queuing it up. But nobody was listening. Nobody subscribed to the YouTube channel. I got a lot of fanatical support from my good friend Kaiser, which I always appreciated. But unfortunately, I have no idea what happened to those episodes. The YouTube channel is shut down. The only thing I still have remaining is I still have access to a Twitter account connected to Reels of Fury. But it's awesome now to have found the subreddit and to really have found the people who also like cassette tapes. And going on Bandcamp and searching by format and looking at the chiptune related cassette tapes and the vaporwave cassette tapes, that's been a lot of fun. Right, I was going somewhere with that. Yeah, so in honor of the new up-and-coming chiptune album, I started shopping around for an independent cassette tape label to produce a short run of cassette tapes for The King of Time, which was a chiptune album that I made. I haven't found anybody just yet. But the thing about cassette tape labels is there's a lot of really small labels with a handful of items in their catalog that are just like, yeah, I'll produce anything. It's a cassette tape. We'll do a run of 15 tapes, and the whole thing will cost about $20 to produce, you know? And that's fine. Just produce them. I would produce them myself, but I want to do more. I want to create some more personal projects on cassette so that I have a better handle on making a quality product. You know what I'm saying? So that's been a lot of fun. All right, speaking of cassette tapes, I want to play one more track just before we head over and do the fail bag. So this is by Sleeping Arms, who created an album called Lucidity, which is a split album between him and somebody else. Lombardy Skies, I believe. Anyway. Nope, I did this all wrong. Did I? All right. So it's a split album, and I've ordered the cassette tape, and it's some rudimentary Korg electronic music that reminds me an awful lot of the early days of Starship Amazing. Better than their Zoom Zoom Internet days, not quite as strong as their Power of Science days. It's a good album. I'm looking forward to the tape showing up in the mail. Been pretty jazzed about this. You guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Let's take a listen. So there you go. I had to crank down the volume a little bit in the mix on that one, because I find that the levels peak a little bit, and there's a little bit of distortion in the way it's mixed. Not too bad. Like when I listen to it normally, there's no problem. But I definitely had to make some adjustments to fit. So I hope that sounded okay. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. I can feel the how should I say this? I enjoy the texture and the lack of spit polish on that track and this album as a whole. I think it's a perfect album for a DIY kind of release, and it was $4, so we'll see. I have checked the description because I'm holding on to the Bandcamp links for Duets, Borderline, as well as Lucidity by Sleeping Arms. If you want to check those albums out, they're free to download, and that's really an important criteria for these tracks to show up here on the airs. I want them to be something you could say, hey man, I dig that. I'm gonna go get a copy of that right now. All right. Well, with that, you guys know what time it is. It's time for the fail bag. This is the part where we make the show interactive. Look, there's not many here. It's just me. It's just you. If you got anything to say, it's not hard to get a hold of me. For the most part, everything I can get a hold of that I know is safe to be put on the air, it goes on the air. So if you know who I am, send me an email. If not, leave a comment on the YouTubans or anywhere else, and I'll do the best I can to get it read. So let's start with Hemrock. Hemrock sent me an email. Let's see. Last week, I finished uploading the podcast, and I put it up available for the supporters probably Friday night at 8, maybe 8:30, something like that, if I remember correctly. And then at about 8:45, he sent me a text. It was like, hey, man, is it too late to get in on the fail bag? It was so close. It was so close that I felt bad. So now I got an email from Hemrock, and it's got some really good stuff in it. So let's check it out. He writes, greetings, CF. Thank you for another couple hours of Tiger Claw Radio. Here's a question-filled fail bag for you. Thank you very much. First off, I'm glad to see Old Man Swingle emerging from his hobbit hole. He really dropped the truth bomb about DRM and how publishers seem to be moving to the rental model, like Nintendo's NES flicks. What is it about pachinko that you enjoy so much? Is there one pachinko game that you own that you enjoy the most? All right. Sorry to hear about your WonderSwan. What type of WonderSwan do you own? Minor correction. I believe the name of the sequel to Radiant Silvergun on the WonderSwan is entitled Judgment Silver Sword. Judgment Silver Sword. You said Justice Silver Sword. All right, quick break to answer these questions. You are correct. Judgment Silver Sword, and I know that because I have it in my Steam library. They released it on Steam for $2.99. Heck of a purchase for $2.99. Solid shmup game, even on a blown up computer monitor screen. I highly recommend that. As for what kind of WonderSwan I owned the monochrome WonderSwan. Of the three models, you had the original release with a black and white screen. You had the WonderSwan Color, which was non-illuminated. It was like the Game Boy Color. And then there was the WonderSwan Crystal, which is more like a Game Boy Advanced, where you had the color screen and it lit up in the back. The Crystal, which is the most desirable of all the WonderSwan consoles, is super, super expensive. So I actually still have the box that my WonderSwan came in. I started using it to store cassette tapes, so it has a date on it because it was an international package. So I got a blue see-through monochrome WonderSwan in 2010. So this was 8 years ago, and I'm considering putting some pennies together and getting another one. And your question you about pachinko, what is it that I enjoy so much? Maybe its relation to pinball. I loved pinball as a kid growing up, and there's also a bit of the there's a bit of the attraction that you can't really put into words. It's just one of those things where once I figured out what was going on and I started seeing those balls running and just the bells lighting up and everything, it's like, hey man, this is really cool. It's just really cool. Also, much like the pinball that we have here in the States, it's not the same as seeing it in person. And I saw it in person in MagFest last year. And my interest in the hobby exploded since then. So when I got Pachinko on the Wonder Swan, that was by accident. I just kind of picked 3 games and said, okay, we'll go with this. The only one of those games that I knew I wanted was Gunpei, because I knew it was in English. So I got Gunpei, and then I got Wonder Stadium, because I knew you could play that as well. It's baseball. And then I knew you could get a third game with combined shipping, so I was like, let's just get anything, and it turned out to be Pachinko. So there you go. Is there a game that I enjoyed the most? As far as Pachinko is concerned, I'm still exploring. There were a couple of really good ones on the Game Boy that I liked. There was one where I was able to figure out the password system. Like, I know when they read the password off to you what I'm supposed to write down to put in, and I just have to write it down using symbols, like draw the symbols and do the best I can. That's on the Game Boy. As far as which one I like the most, probably Pachicom. Think Famicom, but they got rid of Fami and replaced it with Patchy. It's hyphenated. It is the most common Famicom Pachinko game, and it's also the most simple. It's very much like think Nintendo's Black Box Pinball, right? But with Pachinko. It's very stripped down. It's simple. There's a couple of modes. The menu is written in English, so you can just play the game and go. That was my starter Pachinko video game, what I would play. So let me play a little bit more. I want to play the ones that look better. Here's the thing about playing it on Nintendo. I want to see more real graphics. This is one of the few instances where I think graphics really matter. Because right now I've been playing it on the Famicom and the original Game Boy. And when I say Game Boy, I'm talking about gray cart original release Game Boy games, oldies. So I got a couple of PS1 games that showed up in the mail. I've got some Super Nintendo games. We're going to try those out and see how they work. And I'll get back to you. Like, I don't have a legitimate, this is the one you should get if you're going to give Pachinko a try. Let's see. And it sucks because there is a video on the internet that I saw that was like a breakdown of Pachinko games, right? It was like maybe 4 or 5 different Pachinko games that you could find commonly and how they worked and what the Japanese meant. And it was like, yeah, man, this is a well-guarded, fleshed out series of games in Japan and nowhere else. And I was like, this is a great video. It went into the history. It was entertaining. And at the very end, it was like, nah, just joking. Pachinko sucks. It's terrible. I was like, oh, man. And it's the definitive video game Pachinko video. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have to do one explaining what I know about the games. But whatever. It is what it is. Let's get back to the email. Looks like there's some more good stuff here. You mentioned earlier that it appears that MonsterCast 2 is getting more attention than expected. How are the stats doing now? Can you get stats from the archive.org post? Like Kazleb, I'm also eagerly awaiting MonsterCast 3 in 2026. Speaking of MC3, here's my top 5 most desired personalities to appear on the podcast that were not in MonsterCast 2. Triverse, number 5. Number 4 is Systems Overload. Number 3 is Norm, the gaming historian. Number 2 is Gamester 81, and number 1 is Burger Rider. This is a really good list. Let's break this down one by one. Actually, most of this is very plausible. Triverse, I would love to talk to, and he, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he's just a message away, because I've shared words with him a couple of times over the past year, and he's always been super awesome and open. Systems Overload, I've actually been talking to over the past week about getting him on TCR for a guest spot. He wants to try podcasting again, and I think that would be awesome. You got to remember, this guy was on episodes 3 through 8, right? And I don't think he's done a podcast since. But who am I to say? We'll have to have him answer that question, and we'll see. Number 3, Norm the Gaming Historian. I don't know. I talked to Norm one time in a group call. I believe he was on during the one time I sat in on a recording for the Ben and Derek Random Show. I sat in on a recording that ended up never getting used. It was when my son was a newborn baby, and it was actually a good. Wow, that means that was 9 years ago. Goodness. It was actually a good time. I would talk to him for sure, but I haven't spoken to him since. And his channel has exploded. He was one of the guys, the old RetroWare TV alumni that did really, really well for himself and is still around, right? I think the last video game takeout video was like 4 years ago. So yeah, Norm and Derek are really the only two that are left as far as I know. I'll shoot him a message, but guys like Norm, it's like I don't even know how to get in touch with him now. You know what I mean? I wouldn't know. I can leave a comment on his YouTube channel, but he's got so many fans, it would get lost in the shuffle. I could send him a DM, but I doubt he reads those because he probably gets a ton of them. You know what I mean? I'll reach out to him. We'll see what happens. That'd be cool. Number 2, Gamester81. Gamester81 kills me because he's just as big, in my opinion, as Norm, but way more open and accessible to everybody. Here's the thing about Gamester, okay? Gamester81 is one of those guys where when you talk to him, he talks to you like you've been friends a long time. That's it. Hey man, hey, and you're in. That's it. I've messaged back and forth with him almost since the beginning, just a little bit here, a little bit there, every couple years or so. Unfortunately, I don't know him very well, but he's an awesome dude. I would love to have Gamester81 on the show. That would be an awesome interview, I think. And the number 1 is the most elusive, Burger Rider. Burger Rider dropped off the face of the earth. No one knows where he is or what he's up to. He doesn't post anymore. He hasn't posted in years. He's still his YouTube feed is still active. Like every couple of months, you can see videos that he's liked show up in like his like feed because all that is made public. But excuse me. A lot of his videos are gone too. All the videos that he appeared in personally are gone, and I didn't know this until like I don't know, a year ago or so. But here's the thing: he would do a long Let's Play, and I know I'm telling you stuff you know already. He would do a long Let's Play of like an RPG, and at the very end, he would sit down in person, face on camera, and he would talk about what he played, and those were good videos. They were good videos. They weren't scripted. He had a lot of genuine things to say. You know, it was all just stream of consciousness, what he felt after having played the game. It was cool. And it didn't drag on. I think that's what made it work. Because the whole video was probably like 3 minutes tops. And he must have wanted to go anonymous because all of those particular videos are gone now, which sucks. I've actually gone to his channel. I've left comments saying, "Hey man, it would be really good to see you again." And then I saw that was amongst other comments just like it. So I don't know. Burger Rider, as far as we know, retired from YouTube. But I would roll out the red carpet for Burger Rider. Although here's the problem with this: let's just say that dreams came true and we got him on. I probably wouldn't put him on MonsterCast 3 because I wouldn't want to sit on the footage. If I had Burger Rider footage, I would make sure it got out there, especially now with him having been gone so long. But yeah, that's a really good list. Triverse, Systems Overload, Norm the Gaming Historian, Gamester81, Burger Rider. That would be a heck of a show, man. It really would. Very good list. All right, let's read on. Glad you liked the Google Translate phone app idea for playing Japanese video games. Have you tried it? All right, we're going to take a break. That was where I heard it. Were you the one who told me that? Because I couldn't remember who told it to me. Yeah, I did try it. It's bananas. I haven't had much luck with it. I wonder if maybe I'll have more luck depending on what system I play on. Like maybe if I'm playing on the computer, then it'll have an easier time doing the translation. But I played it on a tube TV playing Famicom games, and the translation didn't work very well. Didn't work very well at all. In fact, it was bad enough that it would be worth dusting out my old camcorder and making a video of what happens when you actually do that. Although I don't think I could film that myself. I'd have to get somebody to film it for me. But little English words would just flash and disappear. Like chair, bologna, onions. There's no way for me to know, but I have a feeling that none of the words it displays actually has anything to do with what is truly written on the screen. All right, let's get back to the email. Thanks a lot for all the MS-DOS game recommendations. I really appreciate it. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten around to putting much time into them. I have heard of the Tetris clone yet. Fantasy General is available on GOG. Do you know how it compares to Panzer General? Is it worth buying? Quick break. I have Fantasy General on GOG. It's almost the exact same game as Panzer General. It's a palette swap, essentially. And it's very good. I have it. It's very good. If you like turn-based beer and pretzel strategy games, basically what they did is they took the tanks and they replaced them with like giant ogres. And they took the airplanes and they replaced them with dragons and that sort of thing. And it plays exactly the same. It's a fun game. Fun game. Put in a couple hours into it. It's one of the games that for me is great to play on my tiny laptop while we have the TV on. Very good for that. Something happened with my laptop though, where when I move the mouse on the screen and I try and click on things, the actual zone that it's clicking on is not where the mouse is pointing. So it makes some of those games impossible to play. I don't know what causes it, but like I can't play Alpha Centauri on my little laptop anymore, which is a pain because I used to use that to get my turn in quickly. Like if it was my turn in the play by email game of Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, I could just flip my little laptop on, get it going, get my turn in, and then be done with it. Now I have to wait and get back to my main desktop machine to get it done. So that's a problem. I can't even remember what I was talking about. Panzer General, yeah, Fantasy General is the same game. It's the same game. I got it on sale for like $1.50. It goes on sale pretty frequently. If you find it on sale, like around Christmas time or whatever, it's worth it. I don't know if it's worth $6 though. Especially on GOG where there's a lot of awesome stuff. All right, let's go back to the email. I enjoyed Jerry's garage sale tips in the Monstercast as well as Mecha Menace's advice on 257. Do you have any garage sale tips yourself? When was the last time you went to a garage sale? All right, quick break. Let's talk about garage sales for a second. Garage sales give me the willies. And this is look, I'm lying down on the couch in the office here and I'm telling the doctor my true feelings. When I go to garage sales, I get super, like, the anxiety comes out. It's just one of those things, right? I'm driving down the street, right? It's, there's the garage sale. It's very difficult for me to stop the car and get out. And I'll tell you something else. The last time I went to a garage sale, it was in the summer, so we're talking, a couple months ago, was a really positive experience. No, they didn't have any video games, but it was fine. They had a lemonade stand, and I had the kids with me. Kids got out of the car. I had I had some quarters in my pocket because I carry one of those Altoids cases now, and it's got change in it. So yeah, I bought some couple cups of lemonade for the kids from the lemonade stand. I talked to the lady who was running the garage sale. She said, hey, let me check with my kid, see if he's got any video games. Nah, he hasn't got it together yet. All right, that's fine, no big deal. And we left. Don't know what it is. I get really apprehensive. I want to go to the garage sales. I want to go. But then once I actually see a garage sale, it's very hard for me to get out of the car and go up to it. I don't know, man. I don't know. I can't tell you what. It's one of those mental barriers that just throws itself up and makes it hard to actually do the things that I want to do. But what are you gonna do? You know what happens when problems arise in life like this. You know what you got to do, right? You got to remember the Kool-Aid Man. Oh yeah! And you break right through them, and you show up at the garage sale, and you say, "Oh yeah!" And you just buy whatever, buy all the old junk. And it sucks now because now I'm really into cassette tapes. And I imagine cassette tapes And from watching Bithead 1000, I wouldn't mind getting some old DVDs. And those things, they have to be plentiful at the garage sales, right? So now if I walk up to a garage sale, here's what I have that I'm interested in. Video games, of course, that would be number one. You don't have any video games? Oh, hey, no problem. Do you have any vinyl records or cassette tapes? Hey, no vinyl records or cassette tapes? No problem. Do you have any DVDs? You know, on top of DVDs, I wouldn't mind getting a digital clock. Another old school digital clock for my desk at work. Yeah, got to go to a garage sale. It's been a while. It's not something I do very much. All right, back to the email. I'm looking forward to that chiptune mixtape. You've played some really good ones as of late. Do you have a favorite from the past 5 episodes or so? Speaking of chiptunes, it's great to hear that Green Leo might be coming out with another album. Do you have a name for it? Could you play us a sample or even a track? Okay. I'm gonna try and do the chiptune mixtape this afternoon, and I think the way I'm gonna do it is that, hey, it'll have a little intro. Hey, thanks for supporting, and then I'm going to play the entirety of the tracks without any interruption, and then I'll just say it'll be a text list of what the tracks are in it, because these were played on TCR, right? So you guys know these. And I want to make it as easy as I can to produce so that I can keep making them. As far as the new album is concerned, it's not that I mind. Like I have some stuff. I could play a work in progress track, but they're all done in FamiTracker, and I have them saved on a USB stick that I don't have with me right now, which means I'd have to dig it out, load up FamiTracker, produce a WAV file, play and stick it on there. Actually, how feasible is that? Is that something I could really do? You know what? We're gonna go back to it after the rest of the email. But I'll tell you what, I don't have a name for it yet. I do not. I know I have for ages. I had like a bunch of old chiptunes that didn't quite make the cut that I was gonna round up and release an album called Leftover Macaroni. That was an idea I had like back when I stopped making chiptunes. It was like, this will be my exit from chiptunes. I'll just take all my unfinished projects, and it'll be another album. It'll sound a little disjointed, but you know what? It's okay. It doesn't matter. I still have all those tracks. It's not going to be called Leftover Macaroni, though. You can count on that. We'll see. I'll get back to it. I don't. I have no interest in withholding any information because I know this is just a little DIY project, but I don't have it handy to play right now. Do you ever think about pulling out the old Ouya? I know you mentioned it was missing a power cable, but I imagine that'd be an easy fix. If a patron perhaps sent you the proper cable, would you agree to doing a video on Ouya gaming in 2018? I would absolutely do a video, but you don't need to buy a cable. I bought a second cable for the Ouya and I got it running, and after I bought that second cable for the Ouya, I found the original cable. So now I went from having none to having 2. The Ouya still works. I would do a video on it if you wanted to. I didn't think there was any interest there. I liked the Ouya. I always thought, well, here's the thing about the Ouya. It cost half as much as a mainstream console, and it lived for half as long. Therefore, I got what I paid for, right? It was about what I paid for it. I liked the simpler games. I liked the lower cost games. I liked the grassroots community that was around it. I was involved in the Ouya forums. And they ended up sending me a hoodie. I have an Ouya hoodie just from goofing around on the forums. I had a lot of fun with it. My kids loved it, right? It had a million problems, right? It had some serious issues. Like, I don't recommend buying an Ouya now, but I had a good time with it. I would do a video of it if you wanted to. At least just fire it up, see what happens. I don't know if the servers are still around. I know the Ouya company got bought by Razer, and they kept the servers up for a long time after that happened. Like, I booted up the Ouya a year after that sale happened, and I could still download my games. So I don't know if you still can, but, whatever. Side note about the Ouya, I looked into flashing it with, like, a Linux distro, turning the Ouya into, like, say, an Ubuntu machine. Surprisingly difficult to do. It's actually very, very easy to brick the Ouya, which is ironic because this was a machine they sold under the pretenses of, oh, hey, hack it up, do whatever you want. This is a machine for you to hack and make your own, right? The simplest hack of hardware, let's put Linux on it, you can't really do with the Ouya, which is ironic. Back to the email. In any case, I hope you keep smashing through the wall of life problems. And remember, when times get tough, you can always snap into a Slim Jim. Oh, yeah! Keep rolling retro, Hemrock. Thanks, man. What an email. A lot of good stuff in that one. I haven't been to YouTube yet to read those comments, and we're already an hour and 10 minutes in. How are you guys with these longer episodes? How is this going over with the listening audience as a whole? We're running past an hour now. I don't know if this is a problem or an awesome thing, because I can make cuts to cut it down so that the show is easier to produce, or I can leave it as is so that you guys have more show to listen to. So let me know what you think the right move is on that one. In the meantime, oh, that's right. I'll tell you what. I'm going to stop the recording and see if I can get some of my chip tunes out. All right. Let's see. So the way this works is, hang on a second. I just went into FamiTracker, and I looked at my chip tunes. And it's a weird thing, because some of the ones that I spent like a really long time on, I think are garbage. And some of the ones that took like 5 minutes, I think ended up sounding really good. So, I don't know. It's a self-refining process. I just have to keep going over it. Let's see. Wait. Hang on a second. There's only one here. I just made like a bunch of WAV files, and it looks like they didn't show up. All right, so this is let's see. Let's try this. I have this called myspaghetti.nfc or whatever it is. This is a really short loop. So in my head, when I was putting this together, I was thinking of the "somebody touch on my spaghetti" meme. And there was one based off of a pop song, but I wasn't familiar with the pop song. So I know it now. It's a song I know now more from the spaghetti meme. And I put together this like a 1-bar loop, really simple. So I'm going to have to find a way to do something with that. All right, here's another one for you. It sounds, I think, a lot like some of the chip tunes I made, the FamiTracker tunes that I put on the first album, Casual Gamer. Let's let it play for a minute. This one has some variation to it. Oh wow, I think I played that loop more than I meant to. I can tell when I listen to this is me learning how to use FamiTracker again. Very rudimentary. This track was made with no expansion modules either, so it only had the four possible channels. There you go, and then it starts over again. And that's I believe I have that saved as no title yet, .wav. That one I think has potential to mix in other instruments, like create the WAV file with the final chip tune, and then throw in some actual instruments, like play the mandolin over it or something like that. And I could probably make that sound good that way. But that's one thing I'm working with. What else do I have? Another one with no title. It just says playing with a bassline version 2. Let's give that a listen. Give it a second to get some traction here. Very simple, but I think that's a good happy sounding tune. I want more than anything to put a real snare drum in the background of that. This is a track I think would benefit from either a real drum set in the background or like a real guitar. You know what I mean? But that's a loop that's got some potential. Let me see. I think there might be one more. And there's one labeled "It's Nothing Really." Let's see if it has. Let's see if it really is nothing. Give it a second. Actually, I think this one might be. I think that might be the whole thing. Just a couple of bars looping. Give me a second here. Let me look at the wave pattern. Yeah, that's it. There's nothing else to it. It sounds more like cutscene music from a game, where it's designed so that the player looks at the cut screen for half a second and then presses a button and moves forward or something. And that's quite enough of that. Let's see. I think that's all the demos I have ready to be sampled. Really short stuff. I mean, these typically when I sit down to work on this, it's like, all right, I've got maybe 25 minutes to do some work in a chiptune. Let's see what we can make happen. And I have no agenda either. It's like, let's just load up one of these and listen to it and let's see if I can add anything to it. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it really, really, really doesn't. So I can tell you that I'm learning a lot. I had to relearn quite a lot as well. I want to move on to something called Milky Tracker, which is a little bit less authentic in its chip sound, but a little bit more freeing. Okay, so the idea is it's not, you're not making authentic NES chiptunes, but you don't have the same restrictions. The thing about making chiptunes in FamiTracker is you can only have so many channels available. You can only play so many sounds at one time. There's a lot of little restrictions like that because what you're making is something that could actually be flashed onto a Nintendo game. Whereas Milky Tracker, you're making something that sounds like a chiptune, but it's actually just producing a wave file and that's it. So you don't have those same restrictions. And since I'm making an album, right, it seems like Milky Tracker would be the way to go. On the flip side of that, I have to learn how to use new software. Which is troublesome and could potentially delay the album. So, I don't think that's going to be this album. I think making chiptunes going forward after this album will probably be in Milky Tracker. But all right, that's all I have related to the Green Leo album project that I'm working on right now. I have zero concept work done for it. So I don't know what it's going to be called or what it's going to look like or anything like that. I just know it's going to be available on Bandcamp. I'm going to make sure that the download's free. Supporters are going to get a little bit sooner than everybody else, and there you go. That's what it is. So now we're back to YouTube. We're going to take a look at these comments in last week's YouTube. The first one's versus. Actually, let me make sure they're all being displayed. Yeah. The first one is from Kyle versus World. I think this is one of Jerry's boys. He writes, "Great video. Thanks for the sub a while back through Jerry. Hope there's a debug live. Let's see. Hold on a second. There's hope Debug Live has a video. A guy's cracked the Sega Saturn to run games and saves and music and code from a USB flash drive. Might want to check it out." You know what, Kyle? It's awesome to hear that advancements have been made with the Sega Saturn. That was the unemulatable machine, and also not unhackable, but very costly to do so. So it's cool to see people push that further. I just want to get one of those cartridges that unlocks it, you know? I want to be able to play the imports, and that's it. That's as far as I've gotten with the Sega Saturn at this point. I wanted to get the one that makes it so you can play the backup games, but that thing's like $50. And right now I just want to play... I want to play the attainable American games and the pachinko games. Which is actually something that's attainable. Pachinko games are not expensive on any system. But it's cool to hear from you, man, especially since this is a first, so welcome. Next comment comes from Mecha Menace, and he writes, "It took me a while to realize that schools are just prisons for kids. I was in college when walking past a preschool at a time when a kid would normally be in school. The thought struck me, I was free to do anything I wanted. I could not go to classes. Screw around, and no one would be responsible except me. Regarding cyclists on back roads, everyone should feel safe on the roads. It doesn't matter if there's a baby sitting in the middle of the road. Do you think the drivers would be more safe and respect the rules of the road? Slow down at corners, peek around the bend, then go. Since it's a back road, drivers would need caution even on straightaways just in case a deer jumped in the road. By the way, what's the worst day of the work week? A great way to solve comments being hidden is thumbing up my comments. So go ahead, everyone, thumbs up my comments so you don't have to hit the sort button, then select the newest first. All right, a few things on that. I actually took your advice, and I've been thumbing up everyone's comments on the last episode of TCR, so we'll see if it works. I know it sounds like you're joking, but we'll try it anyway. As far as being safe on the road, Look, you're right, but people die on the road, and it doesn't even make the news. So I think there's a certain degree of caution that's appropriate. And if you're out bicycling at night, if you're out jogging at night, or if you're out doing anything at night on the road, you should be at least a little reflective. You know what I mean? And you should know that there's going to be cars out there, and you should take appropriate measures to be safe. That's I'm setting aside what's legal. I'm just talking about what's appropriate for being safe. But I agree with you. It's also incumbent on the driver to be slow and be alert. But hey man, let's make this a two-way thing. Let's work together on not being involved in a deadly accident. I know if my babies were going to be playing in the middle of the road, I would not want that to happen. All right. You also asked what's the worst day of the work week? Thursday, because it's not Friday, but it's you're 4 days in. I think Thursday has always been my nemesis. Thanks for the comment, Mechamenace. It's good to hear from you, man. Desm 101. Right. By the way, Desm, I recently I found you on Twitter because you liked one of my tweets, and that led me to your SoundCloud. So I've been digging through your SoundCloud, and there's some decent stuff on there, man. So he writes, digging the tunes lately. Great story about the guy swearing off video games because of Silent Hill. Haha, that's awesome. Love that game. I haven't bought a Steam game in a while. Really been wanting to pick up La Mulana 2 and The Mummy Demastered. Heard good things about them both. You know what? I haven't seen a whole lot about La Mulana 2, but I played the first game. The first game is really awesome. It's super, super difficult and super cryptic. But I think that can be a fun thing where it's really up to you to walk around and find clues and understand what you're doing in order to make progress. It's good stuff. That's a good game. I bet the sequel would be really good as well. Oh boy, did we have static in that last bit? All right, we're going to see if this gets rid of the static. I can't believe there's been static this whole time. We're an hour and a half in, and there's been static like the whole show. I can't go back and redo it now. It's too late. And I don't have time to just scratch. I can't scratch the show and do it again. It's either there's static or there's no show this week. Oh my gosh. That's really tough, man. This is a tough spot. I have a few comments that people put on backlog episodes that I wanted to bring up. Darabka, the Gaming Beast, writes on episode 247, I'm happy we got to play some Zandronum. We should try Double Dragon again. We can get through it on easy mode. I used to collect basketball cards when I was into basketball way back when. I read about the pinball construction set. I got to see if I can get it to run. Emu Paradise shut down the servers themselves because of Nintendo cracking down on some Tomorrow sites. That's what he writes. But it is what it is. It sucks, but it is what it is. Yeah, man. Pinball construction set is pretty widely available. That game, in the old days, it was a boot game, so you would run it by putting it into the machine and then turning the machine on, and then there was no way to exit the game. You just played it until you were done, and you turned the computer off. So, yeah, keep your eyes peeled. You should be able to find it with minimal searching. Runs well on DOSBox. It's a fun little game. Yeah, it would be awesome to play Double Dragon again. I had a lot of fun doing that, and it's been a long time since we did that as well. So, yeah, that would be fun to check out. What else do we have here? I don't know if I read this last week, but he also wrote on one of the old episodes, the Worms voice editor is fun. I remember doing my own as a kid. I should give that new Quake game a try. I need to finally make that Morrowind video I've been talking about. You forgot to put this on TNR. Great episode as usual, broski. Yeah, TNR. I gotta remember to post these stuff on TNR. It's been tough. It's not because I'm not supporting TNR anymore. I still like the next round. I just, it's been tough keeping up with my schedule. All right, boys and girls. That's all I got for this week. Just remember, if you, whatever you got, oh, crackle, crackle. whatever your problems are, whether it's, difficulty at work, difficulty at home, or maybe you got tons of static on your podcast, just truck right through them. Because I'm rooting for you. I really am. And I'll see you guys next week.